Welcome to the Ask JT podcast, where we simplify tax, finance, and business decisions for UK business owners. I'm Justin Turner, accountant, business owner, and author. I'm going to share practical advice and help you run your business more efficiently and keep more of what you earn. Hi, it's Justin from Ask JT, and in this episode, we're tackling one of the biggest changes coming to sole traders, making tax digital for income tax, or MTD ITSA, if you love a good acronym. Now, look, if you're a sole trader and you're earning more than £30,000, this one is essential listening. It might not sound exciting, but it could save you a ton of hassle. So just listen right up to the end, because I've got some brilliant tips and bits of advice of what you can do here. So let's start with the basics. What is making tax digital for income tax? This is HMRC's plan to modernise how businesses report income. So if you're filing a self-assessment tax return, that system is basically being replaced with quarterly updates and digital record keeping. So these are the deadlines. From April of 2026, if you're a sole trader with a turnover of £50,000, then you're going to have to start doing it from then. If April of 2027, if your turnover is between £30,000 and £50,000. Now, just to be clear, that this is turnover, not profit. So that's the amount that you're going to invoice before expenses. Here's a really key point as well. HMRC will look at your 24-25 tax return, which is going to be filed by January of 2026, and decide if you're going to be in scope. So if you earned £33,000 in 24-25, you're likely going to be in, and that's going to be from April of 2027. So if you've got a turnover of just over £50,000, for example, it's going to be April of 2026. Now, if you turned over in the previous tax year more than £50,000, HMRC are likely going to opt you in. Now, you might be going, hang on a minute, my turnover's dropping this year and it's going to be under £50,000. Unfortunately, that's not going to matter, because they know that your turnover is likely going to be over £30,000. So they're just going to bring you into the system now. They should have written to you already if you're coming in for April of 2026. I was talking to a client last week about this, and she said, no, I've not had a letter. And anyway, after the meeting that I had with her, she emailed me later and said, it was in the unopened post. So do go and have a look at what you've got from HMRC. So what do you need to do? That's the next stage of this. So under Making Tax Digital, you're going to have to submit quarterly updates showing income and expenditure. This is basically self-assessment every quarter. That's the reality of the matter. You're going to have to submit a final statement at the end of the year, and you're going to have to do it on approved software. You can't just rely on spreadsheets. They're not going to cut it anymore. They're going to have an official piece of software that's basically linked to HMRC. So, there are bridging software options. I just wouldn't suggest that you do that. When we had VAT, Making Tax Digital come in, people did use this thing called bridging software. I think technology has moved on so much now that the digital systems that we've got for software are so much better that we don't really need to do that. So, what software are you going to need? That's the next part of it. So ultimately, you're going to need a piece of software that keeps digital records. It's going to be able to send updates to HMRC, and it's going to be able to file the tax return. There is a list of products. What we're doing for our clients is that we've been recommending a package of Xero, Xero, called Simpled. It's like a stripped back version of the full platform. Allows you to do a few invoices, but it's going to be Making Tax Digital ready ultimately. Why have we been suggesting this? It's because a lot of people who are sole traders, they like the use of an app, for example. So we've got an app that we can use. We can also, they've got some receipt scanning software that they tag on for free on the higher the subscriptions of Xero as well. So basically, it just makes everything so much easier. I think the key thing as well is don't listen to what other people are doing down the pub. I always talk about the pub tax advisors. Your mate Dave, who's still using the fax machine, is probably not the right person to talk to. What you need to do is talk to kind of a forward-thinking, probably firm of accountants who know what they're doing ultimately. My firm at Orange Umbrella, we're already way ahead of the curve. We've got a good chunk of our clients who are already on this digital record keeping stuff. So, it's easy to do once you get going. But if you're working with someone who knows what they're doing, it's going to make this kind of so much easier. Is this going to mean that you've got to pay more tax? That's a good question, isn't it? No, the amount of tax that you're going to pay is going to be the same. So you're still going to pay on the 31st of January for your kind of main amount of self-assessment. That's sometimes referred to your balancing payment and your first payment on account. And then you're going to pay again for your second payment on account on the 31st of July. But here's kind of a bit of a warning as well. HMRC are getting you to report quarterly, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility that HMRC might not pull you into quarterly tax payments later down the line. It almost seems a bit inevitable. To be honest, I actually think quarterly tax bills might work better than the current system. A lot of the clients that I've got who are paying payments on account absolutely hate the system of payments on account, because if they have a quieter year, they get a big refund, and then the next year they're back into paying a big payment on account, and they find the cash flow management really, really difficult to do. So here are some quick tips that are going to help you with this process. The first one is we're going to get set up on this software and we're going to track our income and expenses regularly. Little and often is going to kind of beat this kind of panic. And we see this all the time with clients, is that we see this December and January kind of rush for doing tax returns. And something like Xero is going to make life easy. You can just log in, do a few things. Maybe you're watching the TV in the evening and you can just reconcile your transactions for the day. The second thing is you want to use a separate business bank account. This is going to make it easy for you to track and automate things via bank feeds. So something like Xero allows you to integrate something called a bank feed. Every time you have a transaction go through your business bank account, it's going to bring it into the app. So that's going to make it really, really easy. If we have good account conduct, so we've got our debit card for the business and we're making sure we're buying those business expenses through the debit card, we're not mixing it into the personal account, we're just having kind of a really well organized structure, it's going to make things so much easier to track as well. The third thing is, use the app as well. Most of these software tools are going to come with mobile apps and invoice scanning. Snap and scan, kind of you snap as you go, upload on the go, stay organized. That's going to be your friend. And my fourth and final quick tip as well is save for your tax. As a very, very rough rule of thumb, try and save 25% of your income for tax. Keep it in a separate account so you're never caught short. So just finally, before I wrap up, what if you're earning less than £30,000? Well, you're safe for now. Making Tax Digital might expand. There's no mention at the moment of anyone below that £30,000. But ultimately, I think that the sooner that you make this switch onto digital, the better. I think if you're in the boat where you're just over £30,000, is start getting ready now. You've got a much longer period in which to learn this process. And if you are coming into the system in April of 2026, you really need to get your skates on and get this in place, because don't forget, it's not, you haven't got that great next year, you haven't got that great long year before you have to start thinking about preparing. You're literally going to have 3 months and then you're going to be having to put a submission in. Look, if you're needing help, my colleagues at Orange Umbrella are there. If you just Google Orange Umbrella, you should find us. We know what software to use, how to get you started and things like that. So it's better to get you started before you get going. If you look on the askjt.co.uk blog, you'll find there's a link to a fact sheet all about kind of the Making Tax Digital for income tax for sole traders. I hope you found that really useful today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Ask JT podcast. Subscribe for a weekly episode, and if you found this useful, share it with a fellow business owner who might benefit.